Hello and welcome to this special broadcast. I'm Shireen Bhan. Operation Sindoor is the new normal for India's stance against terror, said Prime Minister Modi as he reset the terror doctrine. His address to the nation on Monday was his first since India's military strikes against Pakistan in retaliation to the Pahalgam terror attack. Prime Minister Modi added that India would not fall for nuclear blackmail and that terrorists and their enablers would be seen as one. He also called Operation Sindoor the Make in India moment for India's defence sector.
न्यू एज वॉरफेयर में भी अपनी श्रेष्ठता सिद्ध की। इस ऑपरेशन के दौरान हमारे मेड इन इंडिया हथियारों की प्रामाणिकता सिद्ध हुई। आज दुनिया देख रही है 21वीं सदी के वॉरफेयर में मेड इन इंडिया डिफेंस इक्विपमेंट्स, इसका समय आ चुका है। ऑपरेशन सिंदूर आतंक के खिलाफ भारत की नीति है। ऑपरेशन सिंदूर ने आतंक के खिलाफ लड़ाई में एक नई लकीर खींच दी है, एक नया पैमाना, न्यू नॉर्मल तय कर दिया है।
Operation Sindoor has set a new normal. That is the Prime Minister in the address to the nation. Meanwhile, United States President Donald Trump, who's currently in the Middle East as part of his West Asia tour, has said that Apple CEO Tim Cook had a conversation with him and Trump told him that he was not interested in Apple building in India. Trump's remarks came while he was addressing the Gulf Cooperation Council leaders meeting in Doha. Trump said that he told Cook that India can take care of themselves. Remember, Apple in February had announced that it would invest $500 billion in the US over the next 4 years. But also remember that Apple has been incrementally increasing its production in India. In fact, in the earnings call, Tim Cook had said that in the quarter, most of the iPhones sold in the US would be of made in India origin. Here's President Trump.
I had a little problem with Tim Cook yesterday. I said to him, Tim, you're my friend. I treated you very good. You're coming in with $500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I don't want you building in India. You can build in India if you want to take care of India, because India is one of the highest tariff nations in the world. It's very hard to sell into India. And they've offered us a deal where basically they're willing to literally charge us no tariff. I said, Tim, look, we've treated you really good. We put up with all the plants that you built in China for years. Now you got to build us. We're not interested in you building in India. India can take care of themselves. They're doing very well.
Well, that's President Trump, consistent with his Make in America point of view. Joining us now on the program to talk about where India stands today post-Operation Sindoor, the big defense equipment moment. Is this a coming of age of India's defense industry as well as the geopolitical reset that we are currently in the midst of? Sanjiv Puri, President at CII, Kalyani, Chairman and Managing Director at Bharat. Also with us on the show are Mukundan, Vice President at CII. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Mr. Puri, if I could start by asking you, we heard from the Prime Minister in his address to the nation and subsequently when he addressed air warriors at the Adampur Air Base, making it clear that Operation Sindoor is the new normal. It's the new red line for India's response to any future terror activities, whether terror actors directly or enablers of terrors as well. Now, from industry's perspective, how do you respond to what we've seen from the Prime Minister, what we've heard from the Prime Minister, and where India finds itself positioned?
Thank you, Shireen, for having us on the channel. So, first of all, let me start by congratulating the Honorable Prime Minister for his very swift, decisive, impactful, and yet very responsible actions. You know, it started with the targeting of terrorist camps, and then India also responded very effectively against the provocations, caused a significant amount of impact and damage to various strategic sites in Pakistan. So I'd like to congratulate him for the swift action and for demonstrating to the world that India will not tolerate terrorism. It's a zero tolerance. And the new normal, I think, is extremely important because, sustainable growth, quality of life, for them, what is very important is a safe operating environment. And this gives immense confidence to investors and businesses. So the Indian industry really would like to congratulate the Prime Minister, would like to salute the armed forces for their bravery, the professionalism. And I think what is interesting that it has demonstrated the prowess that the Indian defense industry has built over the years. I think it all started again with the visionary leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister, the Make in India program, which has started several years back. And we know from a minuscule amount of exports, we're talking about last year about 3 billion or approximately kind of exports. And the efficacy of all of these equipments were amply demonstrated by the effectiveness of the targeting, the precision targeting, and the extensive and effectiveness of the damage caused. And this is not merely speculation. This is based on images that have been verified, not only what we've seen in India, but also by overseas media channels where they have access to various satellite images and have very clearly demonstrated the extensive damage that has been caused. So I think it's absolutely Indian industry is in complete solidarity with the Indian government on the actions that have been taken. We welcome it. And I'm sure that this also gives a lot more impetus and energy to the building of the strategic defense sector in India.
Yes, let me take that point forward with Mr. Baba Kalyani, somebody who has, of course, been involved with India's defense sector for very long now. Mr. Kalyani, as I started, is this really in a way a coming-of-age story as far as India's defense sector is concerned? Sanjiv Puri alluded to the export number, and we've seen that export number up 34-fold increase in the last 10 years to over 23,622 crores. But, Operation Sindoor and what it's meant in terms of testing India's military prowess, testing India's defense capabilities, coming out successful on all parameters. We are given to understand at this point in time that we could be talking about replenishment orders worth about 30 to 40,000 crores. And all of this now builds on the indigenization efforts over the past decade. Mr. Kalyani, your first thoughts on what Operation Sindoor has meant as far as India's defense capabilities are concerned, as well as the road ahead.
Well, thank you, Shireen. And first of all, let me share what Sanjiv said and congratulate the Honorable Prime Minister, the political leadership in India, and our armed forces, the National Security Advisor, and everybody else who took part in planning and making this successful. I think what we need to understand, what is very different in this conflict is this has been a technology-enabled and technology-intensive battle, not the normal kinetic war that we were used to with our adversaries across the border in Pakistan. And I think this is what is very heartening for India, heartening for the nation, and what our industry has been able to contribute, both the public sector and the private sector. And more importantly, let's not forget our DRDO, who has been at the backbone designing products and making technology happen. And I think this is a big change that has happened. We all see it in our own businesses where we are making defense equipments. And I think you will see India moving ahead very fast in the technology-enabled battle scene that we had in this conflict. Having said that, I just want to caution that this was a short conflict. I think from our side it lasted 25 minutes, if I have heard the media correctly, and we should be prepared that something bigger happens. We are not caught napping, and we are ready with all our muscle power, all our technological capability, and all our hardware. And I think Indian industry is pretty much up to the mark. We are, more than just the business side. I think as Indians, we are extremely elated and very proud of how this has been handled, how our leadership has taken decisions and have made things happen in a very proper fitting manner.
Well, Mr. Kalyani, since you talked about the length of the operation, just to be absolutely precise, it was 23 minutes to be exact, sir. That is how long Operation Sindoor, the first installment of Operation Sindoor, lasted, 23 minutes exactly. But let me bring in Mr. Mukundan into the conversation as well. Mr. Mukundan, just to take forward what we heard there from Mr. Kalyani, in terms of future readiness, future preparedness, he talked about the contribution of organizations like the DRDO, etc., but perhaps a need for even deeper, more robust private-public sector participation, partnership as well, especially on the defense side as we move forward, because at this point in time, in the geopolitical reset that we're seeing, perhaps self-reliance will be of critical importance.
Thank you, Shri. Let me also join my two senior colleagues in congratulating and complimenting our government, our Prime Minister, and our armed forces on a wonderful, resounding message they sent across. And this was a very important message, fundamentally, because ours is a fight for peace. Ours is a fight for calm. And I think this was very important to do the way it was delivered, precise and short, as Baba Kalyani explained. And I think very clearly, in the long run, the point about Atmanirbharta, which the government has been saying, is actually most acutely we need to drive home in the area of defense. Because one of the things I did learn through this whole process is that when countries do export their wares, they actually reduce some of the capabilities of the equipments they sell to others. So I think in that context, if you had to be fully capable and measuring up to any form of threat issues which we will face in future, I think we need to design and develop and ensure that we have equipments and the technology which is right up there, matching with the best in the world. What we have seen is the human ingenuity, the human talent which has come to the fore, but we need to back it up with material goods and technological goods. And we are right there, but we must continue the momentum. One of the things which I would certainly say is that what private sector does bring to the table is its ability to put together a time-bound and also very cost-effective solutions to be delivered in a way that I think it not only caters to Indian needs, but also the needs of India as it begins to project itself beyond the shores of India. So really, the government has taken many, many steps in the area of defense, especially in terms of public-private partnership, procurement from Indian companies, encouraging joint ventures with the overseas partner. I think that momentum should continue. And I'm sure that more avenues will open up for us. And this defense spending and defense development, as I call it, should be seen as expenditure and an investment in peace. Many of us mistake that, whether it can go into other sectors like education. Certainly those we need to do. But I think this is one of the critical things. Because development doesn't happen without peace all around. And in ensuring not just peace at home, but also peace overseas, I think we need to progress it, and the private sector and public sector should work hand in hand, and government has taken wonderful steps in this regard.
Mr. Kalyani, if I could come back to you, sir, and talk about the road ahead as far as acquisition is concerned. And, I would imagine that we are likely to see another improvement over the previous year's budget. We did see a significant improvement this time around as well on the defense budget, including the acquisition budget. But, the focus and priority, you talked about this having been a tech-enabled conflict. The focus on drones, for instance, the focus on AI-guided loitering munition, for instance. What would you now like to see being prioritized, both from a development perspective as well as an acquisition perspective, sir?
Well, if you closely look at India's response in this conflict, it was a response which was, all the three services put together along with ISRO and other agencies working together as an integrated response. That's where technology comes into play. So if you look at UAVs are going to be a major part of any battle scenario anywhere in the world. If you look at the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Ukraine is making something like 1 million UAVs per year. I mean, there are hundreds of companies in Ukraine making UAVs. India has more than 500 companies who make UAVs. So I think we have come of age in this area. What is very important is we are able to do precision strikes. And for precision strikes, you need, the satellite surveillance, you need multiple agencies working together, making these things happen. And I think that was very ably demonstrated in those 23 minutes, as you said, what happened. So I think we have the capabilities. We just need to keep enlarging it, because you can imagine conflicts like the Ukraine-Russia conflict. This is going on for 3 years. Now, we had a conflict that went on for less than half an hour. So if we have a longer conflict, then we need to be far better prepared. But I think we are all there with the policies that the Honorable Prime Minister put into place for the last, let's say, 10 years in the area of defense, and all enabled by our Honorable Defense Minister and the whole user industry collaborative effort that is going on between industry, DRDO, and the users, that is the services. We are all moving forward at a very rapid pace. I mean, there are a lot of things that you don't see that are happening in industry, but I can tell you and assure you that we are moving forward at extremely rapid pace. And this is not only good for our defense, but is also good for our overall economic and industrial development.
Why don't you give us a sense of what is happening behind the scenes within the private sector in the defense space, Mr. Kalyani? What exactly is moving forward?
I'll give you, for example, I can't give you specifics, but I'll give you an example. In the artillery sector where we are involved, I mean, we have weapons which are far more advanced than anywhere in the world today. That's one. Second, if you look at in armored vehicles, whether tracked, wheeled, India is moving ahead with new equipment designed by DRDO, but produced by Indian industry, and with much higher technical capabilities than what we have today. And all this is with integration with AI, digital, and everything else that's there anywhere in the world. So I think we are pretty much moving ahead. In terms of electronic warfare, I think whether it's anti-drone warfare, whether it's jammers, whether it's, those kind of things, we are moving ahead pretty fast. There are many companies working in this area. In terms of software-defined radios, again, that's an area where we are moving very rapidly in terms of technology. So every area you are moving in technology up ahead. And the good thing is all this is converging in every equipment that you make. So it's not that in like the old days, you have an artillery gun sitting and firing at the Kargil hill. Now it's all integrated. It is autonomous. It can be controlled without any man being there, and controlled by using data from satellites and everything else. So I think things have gone in the last 5-7 years way ahead, and they're going to go even faster.
Absolutely, we are seeing that already in play. But Sanjiv Puri, if I may bring you and Mr. Mukundan into what we are seeing outside of course, what's happening on the battlefront. In the midst of this, we are seeing this global reset, where if I could loosely say trust is being replaced by trade. I mean, here you have a situation where President Trump is now even talking about a possible deal with Iran while he's touring the Middle East. So Sanjiv Puri, as we look at the world today, how India is best placed to navigate on the trade front in a world which is in a geopolitical flux?
So this is a very important facet that you have brought in, Shireen. That I think that first of all, India is very well placed because of the strengths, inherent strengths that India has got. India has got the capacity to produce at scale economically of world-class quality. India has the talent, and India is also a services powerhouse of some of these frontier digital technologies also. So India, from its own competitiveness perspective, is well placed. Now, we have seen several policy reforms over a period of time. Several of them have happened that make India a competitive destination. There are several successful examples. I think the world is also looking for supply chain resilience, which becomes even more important in a world where there is, when there are these trade fragmentations and also, the certain geopolitical shifts happening. This becomes very important, and scale can only come from India in many of these areas. So that's, having said that, I think the way to go is what is being done is we need to stitch our own bilateral trade deals in alignment with national interests. And as we do economic integration, I think we have to be cognizant of countries that are also working against our interest. And we have to, certainly CII would encourage its members to move away from them, to reassess. There are countries that supported Pakistan in this conflict. And of course, with one of them, we do have a material amount of trade. And I think it's not in India's interest not in national interest for us to pursue that. We should be reassessing what are alternatives that we have got.
Are you suggesting Sanjiv Puri that India break trade relationships with Turkey, with Azerbaijan? Azerbaijan, of course, is too small. Even Turkey, in the larger scheme of things, is about $10 billion. But are you suggesting that we break, trade ties with Turkey?
Look, before the conflict happened, we had a trade of about 40 million with Pakistan, or something of that order, right? It was small. So all I would say right now is that we must reassess, and we must definitely look at alternatives. We should certainly reduce, or if possible, eliminate economic integration with such countries. Why should I? I mean, it goes without saying, why should you be creating economic activity for places that are working against national interest? The national interest must come first and foremost. And I'm very happy to see, a lot of Indian consumers in this true spirit of nation first are kind of canceling their the tourism or the holidays, vacation they wanted to take in some of these countries. That's, I think, absolutely the right thing to do. Why should we be creating economic activity for countries that will work against our interests? That's the principle. India's self-interest is the first. And therefore, very strong reassessment and as much as possible, realignment, I think, is something that I would encourage everybody to think about. And coming back to what the question that you raised, I think fundamentally in this whole, the very hyper-dynamic evolving trade scenarios, I think the way to go is to, one, focus on domestic drivers of growth, which the government is very well doing and has done over several years. And the advantage is India is a very consumption-driven economy. The second pillar we need to strengthen is our integration with global value chains. Exports is just 12% of GDP. How do we take that number up? And towards that, I think the bilateral trade agreements that India is pursuing, that's the right way to go. I think that's the way to have one-to-one arrangements with countries where there are synergies and where there are mutual benefits. That's the way we should be pursuing those. And I think some of the ones that are in the pipeline now are the ones that will create immense value for the economy.
We spoke the day that the UK agreement was done, the India-UK agreement was done. Mr. Mukundan, talking about bilateral agreements, let's talk about the US. We just had Donald Trump once again reiterate that, in fact, telling Tim Cook that he doesn't want Apple to build more in India. Also suggesting that, look, if you're building in India for India, that's fine, but anything beyond that may not pass muster. Now, that's his point of view. Whether Apple agrees or not is a different story altogether. But what do you take away from that messaging? Also, do you believe that a zero-for-zero tariff policy is the right approach? Again, Trump suggesting that India has offered zero tariffs. He said quite literally, they've said that there will be no tariffs. The Indian government so far maintaining that it's too premature to comment on any deal contours. Do you believe that a zero tariff policy is appropriate?
Firstly, Shireen, I think this is a world of trade partnership, as you mentioned. And I think we've already signed up with UK and FTA, and I think we are looking to sign FTA with the European Union, and I think also some kind of a deal with the US. So I think when we talk about free trade, I think there is going to be some give and take. And if that leads to zero tariff on some tariff lines, I think that is the way the world is going to shape. But that is the opportunity for India. India's opportunity is to be not just the service center of the world, but also the factory of the world, but also the manufacturing center of the world. And all the decks are stacked in India's favor. We have the talent. We don't have an aging population. We have workforce which is actually very productive. And we now have improving infrastructure. You look at it from all perspectives. I think everything is going for us. And really, the basic message which we must be pushing forward in the world stage is India is open for business. And effectively, we are looking for partnerships with like-minded countries. And really, what we want is a progress through peace and progress through partnership. That is really what we want. Even this skirmish which we had with our neighbor was a fight against terrorism. It was not a fight with the neighbor. And I think as long as there are principles on which we stand, I think we should then work with countries, like-minded countries. And I think we would certainly welcome a move from government to enhance our trade competitiveness through networks and supply chain, which we want to build. And it's all going to augur well for us. And really, at this point of time, momentum is
but
with us, and we should
you don't see a build-up of conflict between President Trump's policy of Make in America and Make America Great Again with our own manufacturing ambitions, because that is sort of what he seems to be suggesting in that comment that came in with respect to Apple wanting to do more in India in terms of manufacturing.
So, Shireen, I think there is going to be pressure on every country to manufacture as much as it wants in their own home country, and I think we should engage with that. But also, I think our position should be what we can engage with the rest of the world competitively. We should be the supply chain source for the world. So I don't think they're at a conflict, and I think they should work together. And I would certainly say every business entity is going to make an assessment of what it can do. And in that context, I think India has a very, very fair chance to push ahead. And let me just say, if you look at small car manufacturer, we are one of the biggest exporters today out of small car. And it all started with a joint venture which Government of India signed in India. So I think if you look at sector after sector, we have proven where we allow technology to come in, where we learn with new technology, where we increase our productivity, where we open the doors. I think we actually can compete very well with the rest of the world. And I think the government is doing the right thing. We are pushing for Make in India, not just for India, but make for the world. And I certainly think Apple should make for India in India, but maybe that opens up an opportunity for them to supply to the rest of the world.
Well, and they are supplying to the US from India at this point in time. That certainly is the case as of today. But gentlemen, the message there from industry is very clear. The answer, the antidote to uncertainty is a strong, resilient domestic economy. And that needs to continue to be the focus of the government and, of course, of the private sector. Once again, a sharp focus on what is happening with our defense industry. The fact that the military prowess of the country has been tested and we have delivered successfully, that needs to be built on, and a more robust private-public sector partnership in each of these areas. Sanjiv Puri, Baba Kalyani, R. Mukundan, always a pleasure. Many thanks for joining us here on CNBC TV 18 to take stock of where we find ourselves post-Operation Sindoor and what it means for our economy, and more importantly, what it means in terms of the coming of age of India's defense industry. We'll take a break. A lot more coming up. Don't go anywhere. We're back in a moment.